So, this week, out of nowhere, a surprise announcement completely redrew the trade map between India and the United States. Let's break down exactly what just happened. For the past year, this number, 50%, has been a massive wall for Indian exporters. I mean, a staggering 50% tariff on goods heading to the US, that's one of the highest in the world, and it made competing over there incredibly tough. But then, just like that, with what sounds like a single phone call between two leaders, that crippling tariff was suddenly gone. A deal was struck, and the entire landscape just shifted. The new number you need to know is this one, 18%. That 50% tariff has been slashed, effective immediately. But the big question is, how on earth did we get here? Okay, let's dive right into this. To really get why this new deal is such a big deal, you first have to understand that the original 50% tariff wasn't just one single penalty. Nope, it was a bit more complicated than that. See, that 50% was actually two separate 25% tariffs kind of stacked on top of each other. The first was what's called a reciprocal tariff. The Trump administration basically said, hey, your tariffs on our goods are high, so we're hitting you with this. The second 25% was tacked on later, specifically because India started buying a lot of Russian oil after 2022. And so this new deal tackles both of those pieces head on. That first 25% reciprocal tariff, it's been cut down to 18%. And the 25% Russian oil tariff, poof, it's been wiped out entirely. You put that together, and that's how you get the new rate of 18%. Now, here is where things get really, really interesting. It's how the deal was announced. We got two very different stories, one from Washington and one from New Delhi. And the differences? Well, they're pretty crucial to understanding what might be going on behind the scenes. Over on his social media platform, Donald Trump laid out some absolutely massive claims. He said India agreed to completely stop buying Russian oil. He said that in return for his friendship and respect, he lowered the tariff. And he also claimed India promised to buy a whopping $500 billion worth of American stuff. But then you look at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's announcement on Twitter and, well, it paints a much simpler picture. He celebrated the tariff cut for Made in India products, and he called it a mutually beneficial deal. But notice what's missing? Yeah, there's no mention of Russian oil, and definitely no mention of a $500 billion shopping spree. Let's just put them side by side because it makes it so clear. On one side, Trump claims a halt to Russian oil, zero tariffs from India, and that huge $500 billion purchase. On the other side, India's official confirmation is laser-focused on one thing, the tariff cut to 18%. There's a pretty big disconnect in what's being said publicly, right? So you have to ask, what forced this sudden change? After a whole year of these tough tariffs, why make a deal right now? Well, the answer probably isn't in Washington or Delhi. It's actually in Brussels. Think of this whole thing like a diplomatic chess game. Back in 2022, the US puts India in check with that 50% tariff. But last year, India made a brilliant countermove. It signed a huge trade deal with the European Union. That meant Indian exporters could just start rerouting their goods to Europe instead, leaving American businesses out in the cold. All of a sudden, the US was at a disadvantage and needed to get back in the game, which leads us directly to this week's deal. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the real-world impact for India. This isn't just about numbers on a page. This is about gaining a real, tangible advantage in one of the world's toughest markets. Just look at how India stacks up now, especially in a massive sector like textiles. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar market where every single percentage point counts. Vietnam faces a 20% tariff. Indonesia is at 19%, and now, with this new 18% rate, Indian goods are suddenly cheaper on the shelf. It might seem small, but in these high-volume industries, that 1% to 2% advantage is an absolute game changer that can shift huge contracts and entire supply chains. And hey, it's not just textiles. This new competitive edge is going to ripple across some other really key Indian industries. Exporters in high-value sectors like gems and jewelry, and major employers like leather goods and machinery, they are all set to really capitalize on this and see a big boost in demand from the US. But you know how it goes. While the headline tariff cut is fantastic news, the devil is always in the details. And right now, there are some very big details that are still completely up in the air. So this whole deal leaves us with two giant unanswered questions that really get to the heart of those conflicting announcements. First, will India finally open up its historically protected agriculture and dairy markets? That's been a long-standing demand from the US. And second, despite the claims, will India really give up its vital strategic oil trade with Russia? The answers to those questions will tell us not only the real fine print of this deal, but ultimately who the true winner is of this sudden trade shift.